I think it's very cool, and it's probably stating the obvious, but here we are. We've all just spewed off all these different podcasts we listen to and books that we read and so forth. This is part of what you get with getting a community with people that are like-minded. Because I guarantee you go into most W-2 jobs, or you go into the break room, and you're not talking about these kind of things. And there is a difference, and there's this incremental change that happens to your life that's really compounds as you put these habits into place where you're listening to things and you're reading books that are going to better your life on a consistent basis. And I don't think it's by accident that you three are in the room as leaders of Boise REIN, that you've put that into your life, and therefore it's coming out and you're giving back and it's manifesting now.
Welcome to the Boise REIN Show, your destination for creating wealth through connections in real estate and business. Are you looking to become a real estate professional? Do you want to start your own successful real estate business? Well, I'm your host, Matt Osanicki. Join us as we learn from the brightest minds, industry leaders, and experienced professionals, equipping you with the knowledge and confidence needed to make informed decisions and thrive in the ever-changing real estate landscape. Your journey starts now. Welcome back to the Boise REIN Show. I'm your host, Matt Osanicki, and today Boise REIN officially turns 1. Woohoo! This is awesome, and we are so glad to have you guys here. Thank you for being a part of this journey with us. And with that being said, we brought in some of the founding members Boise REIN had in order to get us to where we are today. So without further ado, I want to introduce Corby. Corby, his passion in life is helping other investors getting started or continuing to scale, and is willing to talk to everyone. Highly experienced buy and hold investor and in property management as well. We have Molly. Molly is an investor, a relocation agent. I love that, by the way. You're one of the Boise REIN Roundtable leaders, and you love helping new investors succeed. And then finally, our founder, Jana. Jana, she founded Boise REIN a year ago. She's a connector, and she leads our member community. So thank you all so much for coming here. I'm excited to just have an open conversation to talk about where we came from, how we got here, and where we're going. So without further ado, Jana, anything you want to tell them about Boise REIN now that we're 1 year old?
Well, first of all, we're going to back up for a second, Matt. You introduced all of us, which I appreciate it. But for the last 15 episodes now, you have been introducing and highlighting other people, but we want to hear a little bit about you. Who would you say you are, Matt? Because I don't think that's really been explained to the audience as much as we'd like it to.
Well, John, I certainly appreciate the question. You're right. I don't normally talk about myself a lot. I got to be honest, I get a lot of my mentality from Corby. I try to be as much of a go-giver as I can and just add value where I can. So thank you for the question. Let's see. I used to be a Black Hawk pilot. I don't know if too many people know about that, but I had a career in the military. I was with the Idaho National Guard, and I was a Black Hawk pilot till 21 or 22, I want to say. And, I turned 30 years old, and I looked around at my career and the people ahead of me and where I was going, and it felt empty. I climbed the mountain, and I looked around, and I just saw that there wasn't enough there for me. There had to be something else. And that's when I found real estate. I found Robert Kiyosaki's books. I found Bigger Pockets. And then I found Boise REIN, the Facebook group. And it changed my life. So I got into real estate and accidentally found short-term rentals and became really good at it. My wife and I do short-term rentals to this day. And we just love connecting with people and providing people with as much value as we can.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I wanted to just have the listeners listen in your words on who you are, because I appreciate you putting the spotlight on everyone else, but I wanted to make sure that people know that you're not a talking head, that you're here and you've got valid, incredible experience and a rich past to draw from. And so thank you for all that you're doing with bringing on so many cool guests and to really highlight sharing their stories. It's so cool.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. I'm glad to have this opportunity.
And this is so fun. We had this idea to get everyone together on a podcast, and I hope y'all, if you're listening, you're setting yourself up with a cup of coffee or a beverage and just settling in, or maybe you're in the car, but just relax and listen and pretend you're in the living room with us, because this is what we want. We want you to feel like, just kind of get to know us a little bit, but also we're going to riff a little bit about what's going on in the Boise market and how this whole thing called Boise REIN got together. Thanks for putting this together, Matt.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let's get started. I want to kind of lead off that a little bit, because we're all in this room for a reason. We got started somewhere. And for those that are listening, like, this is what can happen when you get around like-minded people. You start sharing your goals, you start sharing your experiences, and you start providing value. You know, you're the accumulation of the top 5 people you spend your most time with. And there's nobody else I'd rather spend my time with than the people of the Boise REIN community, to be honest. So thank you all for coming. And I got some questions for everybody. So let's talk. First question, where everyone is from and how we got connected and how long they've been in the real estate space.
Okay. Well, I'll jump in on that one because I think as far as the getting connected, there's common threads. And I feel like I've had a privilege of knowing Corby and Molly separately and who met through what we're doing here at Boise REIN. And then, of course, Matt, I met you through the Facebook group and with Corby, aligning together on the same team. And I personally, I'll go way back. I grew up in San Diego, but I have my parents and my grandparents are Idahoans. And so Boise and Idaho are truly home to me. And we've been in the Valley since college, right after college, which is a long time ago. And it's been quite a journey. So basically, I'm from Boise now, and my parents have roots in North Idaho. They live up in Sandpoint. And we got involved in... What was the second part of that question, Matt?
Yeah. So how do we get connected and and how long and how long have you been in the real estate space?
Guys, I told you, just like sitting in the living room. Maybe you're having a cocktail and like me here instead of a coffee. But we got connected in various ways. Corby and I got connected. And if you'll get to know Corby in a minute, if you're not familiar with him, Corby Goat is a fabulous agent and team leader and investor here in the Valley. And we got connected as an agent, client relationship about 11 years ago.
Yeah, right around there.
Somewhere around there where Corby we had a lot of synergy because as couples, my husband and I and Corby and his wife Heather were both investing in buy and hold rental properties and did some deals together and became friends from there. And even it's been fun. Even my daughter was a babysitter of yours for a while, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I want to cut you off real quick because this is a cool story. So for those listening, Corby used to be a client of Jana's. So Jana, you were Corby's agent. Yes. And then years later, I was a client of Corby's. So Corby was my agent. So real estate doesn't happen overnight, but over the years you make these connections and it's so cool to see how the webs of time intertangle when you surround yourself with like-minded people.
Totally.
Yeah.
Relationships grow.
They do.
Right. So and then we just became colleagues because Corby, you became a huge agent in your own right when we both were leading teams and had synergy that way. And but we've always had this connection of not only wanting to work with investors, but also being investors ourselves. So that's a little history about Corby and I. And then Molly and I became friends a few years ago. Molly moved up here. We'll go into where you're from, Molly, but she moved up into the area and we went to coffee together and again had synergy of both wanting to serve our clients, but more specifically, we were investors, both of us.
You in the Facebook group.
She found me in the Facebook group.
Yeah,
so
I found you. And
you can find anybody in that Facebook group.
And I first interacted with Corby in the Facebook group. That's where I first, kind of found my space. I was looking for where I was going to fit when I got here, and that's where I found it.
That's right. Group. Yeah. And then, of course, Matt, we met again through the Facebook group and then through Corby. But it was about a year. It was actually just a little bit over a year ago where we decided that the Facebook group was good and everything, but there really wasn't a formalized way to connect people, to have them be able to track who each other were, do deals together, create relationships together. And we decided to take things up to the next level and really create what today is Boise REIN, the Boise Real Estate Investor Network.
That leads us into our next question, actually. So why even start it? Is that why you wanted to start the whole Boise REIN Investor Network connection?
It started. It started with a gleam in my eye years and years ago.
Sure.
And this is going to date me, but it started. I went to a Bigger Pocket Summit back in 2012. It really was a meaningful change in my life, getting to that investor mindset, and came back and started doing quarterly meetups then. And this was almost a decade ago. I started doing quarterly meetups, and then we started the Facebook group in 2017. We started to get connected. Corby, you were one of the first people on that Facebook group, I think. It's hard to remember what that looked like back then. Yeah. And it got to a point about a year and a half ago where we had like 3,000 people in that group, but people weren't really connecting. And we're kind of unusual in Boise that we don't have, and we haven't had in the past, like an official REIA. And, everyone nationally says, join your local REIA, connect with people, go to the meetups, do all these different things. And there was a real void in our valley to really take that to the next level and connect it and be the person to orchestrate the details of that.
Can you describe to the audience what a REIA is and why they're so important?
A REIA is a real estate investor association, I think is what it formally stands for. Yeah. Yep. And most major cities, I've done a lot of research actually building Boise REIN, have major groups in these different cities offering an array of resources and education. And that is something that was fairly void in our area. And
Corby, in your opinion, why do you think those are so important?
Oh, well, connecting with other people who are doing the things that you want to do and have knowledge and resources, it's huge. It makes all the difference in the world. I mean, that was one of the reasons, like when we first got started, my wife and I was listening to Bigger Pockets, and I'll probably go into more detail later, but like I connected with Jonna, and I was like, oh my gosh, somebody else here in Boise is doing this thing, because I had no personal connections. I didn't know anybody who was doing it. And it was just cool hearing that there were other people out there that I could meet that were doing the same thing, and I got excited that I could share resources with them. And that was kind of the start of us doing more, was meeting more people who are in that world.
Yeah, these are definitely your colleagues when you go to these meetups. And I know they can seem daunting, especially for people showing up for the first time, because I know I was definitely there, and I still am. Like, I still get nervous going to meetups, but that's where the magic happens. That's where you meet some lifelong friends and some lifelong partners.
Yep. And, and I didn't want to skip over, you asked where everyone was from. And I know we've got a lot we want to share with everyone today, but just real quick round table. Molly, where are you from originally?
I'm originally from the Bay Area, California. Moved here in August of 2020. Yeah, moved here specifically, for a new life and a shift for my family. And real estate investing was definitely a big goal of ours. And back then, it was still super affordable to be buying investments, which has shifted a bit in those few years. But we were really excited. And I will say, I started my real estate career like 16 years ago, and we knew nobody. Like, we were not connected to others that were investing. The little nugget I had was I had an uncle who had bought a couple of investments and he lost them in the 2008 crash. And so the little nugget I had about real estate investing was that it was bad, it was doomed, and that things were going to end badly. But I couldn't help the fact that I had the bug for it. And so we did about 10 years not knowing what we were doing. And then 2018 found Bigger Pockets, and then it just, starting to get exposed. And it was just that exposure to people who were doing the thing I wanted to do that started to light a fire in me. And then when I moved to, actually, I think it was before I even moved to Idaho, I had gotten on the Facebook group. I think I had chatted briefly with Corby in the Facebook group, and then I got connected to you, and I started to be like, okay, these are going to be my people. Like, you were the benchmarks for me that I knew when I got there I needed to make relationships with you. And so you and I had coffee, I think within a couple of weeks of me moving here. And
I was like, she's a powerhouse. Yeah. Look out, Boise.
Yeah, and it was really exciting. I just knew I had found the right people and that good things were to come, and I was right.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Amazing
I love when you say my people.
Yeah.
Because that's how I feel. I feel so blessed, like, in creating this network, that every time I walk into one of the rooms, I'm like, these are my people. Yes. And so I hope that is a feeling that's a vision for us. I speak for all of us, I think, that we want people to feel that way when they're part of Boise REIN, that they're not like intimidated, that they're like, oh, I haven't invested in anything. I don't know if this is my group, or, but we're not the investor group, like standing in front of the Lamborghinis. Like, we're the antithesis of that.
Totally.
And I hope people feel that we are literally the investors next door.
Yes.
Yeah. I feel like this is what true investors look like.
Yes.
They drive the beat up cars that get good gas mileage because they're pouring all their time and energy and effort into investing in themselves and the people in the community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah.
I will say, coming from the Bay Area, California, and not to bash California in any way in that realm, but, I was super intimidated in the real estate investor network. Like the meetups that I had attended there, it was really hard to feel like I as a newbie could relate to these people, even though I had 10 years of experience when I started kind of getting into it. I just couldn't quite find that groove. And when I got here and I met you guys and started networking in the Boise network, I felt like it was such a different, vibe's the best word I can come up with. That we're just normal people just trying to stick a little bit of money into a smart investment and create something for the future. And it doesn't have to be Lamborghinis and flashy anything. It's just normal people trying to make something of something more of their lives. And I so connected to that. And I think others connect to that too. And that's why Boise REIN has been so successful.
Well, with that being said, why do you think it's so important to get into rooms like that and to be around these types of people, in your opinion?
Well, I mean, for me personally, the inspiration, you just, when you feel intimidated in a room of people doing the things you want to do, it has you shy away from going after your goals. When you get in rooms with people who are super relatable, that are just like you, and they're doing it, and you're seeing that they're having success, it just encourages you. It pulls you forward into your goals. And I mean, isn't that what everybody wants?
Yeah. Well, it shows you that like anybody can do it. Jonna was a teacher. I was a teacher. And I got into real estate for a lot of reasons, but I remember thinking it'd be hard to make less money, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
I could do worse.
How could it get worse than don't get me wrong. I respect teachers. I love teachers.
Gosh, madly.
Yes. Of course. But it's one of those things that like you have to do it because you're passionate about it, because you're not going to be like sitting on a beach in Mexico when you're 45 years old and retired. So that being said, it just was like, for me, it was just like, well, I have to do something else. Like I have to do something in addition to, and I started without any resources or anything like that. And then starting to connect with more people who were doing it that were really cool and approachable, it just started clicking for me that like, oh, these are regular people just like me. I know when you think about real estate investors, you think about the ones that you see on social media.
Ones.
Yes, the flashy ones. That's the first thing that comes to mind. But the people that I know that are doing big things, they are not flashy and they're quiet. Like some of the people in this, I mean, there's a lot of people that are involved in the Boise REIN that are beyond successful, more so than any of the people in this room. And they'll be sitting quietly in the corner by themselves, like munching on a cracker.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Right.
So I've found in my life, generally the people who are super flashy that want to protect their time and don't give freely are the ones who probably aren't doing a heck of a lot. Yeah. Maybe they took out a HELOC to buy their Lamborghini to do some pictures. Or
Right.
But yeah, no, it's real people. And that's the cool thing, is just seeing that like real people can do it. Anybody can do it.
For those listening who either maybe have not attended a conference or a connection event like Boise REIN has and are looking to go the first time, or they've been a few times and they want to get the most out of going to one of these, what are your guys' advice that you have for these new people coming in that will maximize the benefits of what they get out of these events?
I'll jump in.
Yeah.
I would say go talk to people. Like just go introduce yourself to somebody. I think a lot of our events, we tend to have several people who will be at the front of the room sharing about something, depending on what that specific event is about. But just go introduce yourself. Go find somebody who said something that inspired you and just tell them who you are and what's inspiring you right now and what you want to get into, and make a connection, because some of the most amazing deals that have come my way have been through random connections. And so you just got to start meeting people and introducing yourself and building those relationships.
And you'll never know when that connection is going to happen either. It could be years down the road.
Totally.
Yeah.
And most time it is.
And don't worry about what other people think of you. I mean, that's like, just 101, but don't worry about that. Just pour into the other people, focus on them. Yeah. We use that term a lot, that we're go-givers at Boise REIN, but truly that's how people experience the most benefit by being part of what we're doing here as a community, is just focus on the other person. Those connections are going to happen. And that could be even the person that is, I like to think that you're kind of like success blind when you're in one of those rooms. It could be the person that just walked in the room that's intimidated by buying their first property, or it's that person, like Corby said, that's eating crackers in the back of the room that maybe has, their fingers in 1,000 real estate doors. They really are all just people at the end of the day, and I think that's what makes such a special connection. We've got this convergence of the brand new investors and the highly, highly experienced professionals, and just treating each other as individuals with respect, and then we're actually seeing like true friendships form which is really cool. I get the biggest satisfaction when I see people that I know that have connected together through Boise REIN and they're out at dinner together on a Friday night. How cool is that?
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So a little hack for people out there who may go to an event and say like, I don't have anything to give. I don't have anything to offer. You do. And just like Molly said, go talk to people because what you can provide is the power of community. If you're going around and talking to everybody and you're introducing yourself and asking how you can help and listening to their stories and asking them questions about what they do, you're going to understand that, hey, Molly's a realtor. John has set up this event. You know, Corby's an investor. He does property management. You're going to run into somebody else at the event that may need a skill that Corby has. And then you can be that glue that binds people together.
Connector.
I can't help you, but I know a great guy that can. I just met him. His name's Corby. Let me go introduce you to him, you know? So even if you don't think you have value to give, you have more than you think.
For sure.
Well, it's not just that. Like, I'm still learning every day. It's funny because I've had some people reach out to me in that group that like, oh, I've been watching your posts for like the last year and I was nervous to reach out. Like, I'm still learning every day. I don't have everything figured out. I just did a deal with an investor who's done a couple deals like last month, and he was a general contractor. And I learned more from him just through this deal chatting than I've learned in a long time. So the point that I'm getting at is like when you're going and talking to people, obviously don't be intimidated because everybody that's there is there for the same reason. They want to connect with people. They're connection events. I mean, that's the whole idea. But the other thing is that humility and just going up to somebody and just saying like, I would love to learn. If you're talking to somebody who is successful and has made something of their life, they're going to want to share all of that with you. And being humble about it and coming up to them, like that's a gift to that person too. Being able to share with others and bring them up.
Okay, Corby, we were going around with where people grew up, but I know you're a Boisean, right?
Yeah.
Were you born in Boise?
Yeah.
That's
I'm the one.
He's the OG of Boise, guys. So I wanted to throw that out there, not forget about that. And then Matt, remind the audience or tell the audience where you grew up.
Northwest Indiana, so just outside of Chicago.
Okay.
And I moved here in 2019, but my wife is an original Boisean. She grew up in Parma.
Perfect.
So I have that leg in.
Okay, so we've got different areas represented. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Okay, well then, other than connection events and conferences, what else are you guys listening to? What other podcasts are you listening to? What books are you reading or listening to on Audible? And maybe just go over some of your favorites that you guys have for the audience.
So ironically enough, because Matt, you used the phrase go-giver, like talking about how we work together. I had never read that book until a couple months ago at one of the connection events.
Book of the month.
Yeah, it was a book of the month. And so I was like, I'd obviously heard about it. And so I listen to books because if I read, I'll fall asleep immediately. But I listened to it and it's an amazing book. Like I just love the way that's laid out and the ideas. And so actually our team is reading it and discussing it right now. So highly recommend that. It's really just the idea about the book is that there are no secrets. And if you share willingly everything that you have with other people, it'll come back to you tenfold and you don't even have to think about that part. It's just the sharing part. Yeah. But as far as I jump around to podcasts a lot. I listen to a lot of different podcasts, but one that I always come back to, speaking really broadly, it's kind of a real estate specific one, but it's really just a great mindset podcast. And It's a Good Life by the Brian Buffini podcast.
Oh, yes.
And he, like his attitude and the way he looks at everything, it's just so positive and it's one of the best podcasts. Like some of them are 15 minutes long, some are 45 minutes long, but it's every single one of them just has some really down to earth, actionable thing that you can do or change that day. And I love that one. Whenever I'm like not in the middle of a book or something like that, that's the one I always go back to. And there's like 250 episodes or something. So there's plenty.
Yeah, I love that. I definitely listen to Ed Milet quite a bit. But recently I got into, and I asked you guys earlier if you knew the name, but the podcast host, his name is Steven something, and it's called the Diary of a CEO. And so he interviews CEOs of like big companies, and you just get a little insight into the mind of somebody who has built something big. And I've just gotten I've gleaned a lot of great nuggets out of that. And so that's currently what I'm enjoying.
We don't have any professors in the real estate investing industry. We can't go to college and learn about real estate investing, without getting into it. So having a mentor like that or a show like this show, really provides a lot of value to get inside the mindset of how these people operate, spend their time, and how they choose to make decisions. So I love that. That's awesome. Molly?
Yeah.
Jonna.
Yeah, a lot. I've been really working on getting back into the basics of investing, like really thinking about it. And I think this has come about from Boise REIN because for years I've been mainly on business and real estate podcasts, like real estate agent business podcasts, because I've been a realtor for 11 years. But I've been digging into the basics. I'm getting a lot out of Brandon Turner's newer podcast, Better Life. And I like the variety of guests and really how there's a focus. They've really delved back into more of the basics of investing. But they also go into more whole life principles, which I appreciate. And I've been going back and listening to like the Real Estate Rookie podcast by Bigger Pockets. It's kind of, basic, quote unquote, but it's really cool to get back into that feeling of what it's like to be new and trying to figure out your first few deals. So if you're new to real estate investing, that's another one I'd recommend.
I love those. I'm going to name off a couple books in case anyone's interested. I've listened to a lot on Audible, so I'll just spitfire if you guys have any interest in some of these books or maybe you haven't listened to them. So huge fan of Rich Dad's Cash Flow Quadrant. Let's see. Never Split the Difference, Who Not How, Vivid Vision, Pitch Anything. Those should get you started. Those are some of my favorites that I've had. There's some others out there. Atomic Habits. So if you guys need some new books to listen to, try to give those a shot. But I found a lot of value in those. I know I didn't mention any real estate books. I know that the Bigger Pockets real estate books, those are always pretty good. They've got a lot of them out there when it comes to real estate. But if you just find anything in like business or psychology, those are really going to help you with sales, starting to scale what you want to do in real estate and get you started.
Yeah. I don't think you even need to have that much real estate specific knowledge.
I was just going to say that.
Well, it's funny. You mentioned Never Split the Difference, and I know we read that one together, but I remember not being excited about that book. Have you guys read that one?
Yes.
I haven't.
It's really good. But I'm kind of the type of person that's like, I want all of my deals to be a win-win. And I remember the title of that book really put me off. And it's such a great book just about human communication. That's what it's about. And when he says never split the difference, he's not talking about beating the opposition into the ground. The guy who wrote the book is an FBI negotiator, and he was like, you can't split the difference when you're negotiating for someone's life, right? You can't say like, just give me their arm.
You're right.
It's an all or nothing ordeal. And so that was kind of the idea behind the book. But it's just like that book gets down to such simple, basic communication principles about like truly hearing other people and letting them feel like they're heard, that it just using some of that stuff, like it totally changes the dynamic in conversations. And like I use that stuff in my personal life, and it's helped me a lot just to hear and understand other people. It's a really good book.
Yeah.
You know what I was just realizing as we were talking about this, and I think it's very cool, and it's probably stating the obvious, but here we are. We've all just like spewed off all these different podcasts we listen to and books that we read and so forth. This is part of what you get with getting a community with people that are like-minded. Because I guarantee you go into most like W-2 jobs, or you go into the break room, and you're not talking about these kind of things. And there is a difference, and there's this incremental change that happens to your life that's really compounds as you put these habits into place, where you're listening to things and you're reading books that are going to better your life on a consistent basis. And I don't think it's by accident that you three are in the room as leaders of Boise REIN, that you've put that into your life, and therefore it's coming out and you're giving back and it's manifesting now. So that's my big, deep aha. But it's really, I guarantee you try it anywhere. You go on a bus stop, or you go to the grocery store and you ask people what they're reading and listening to. It's going to be it's not going to be these topics. I'll just put it that. I'm not going to put down anything else.
So there's a saying, and it may be a little controversial for me to say, but there is a saying, and it goes like this. Poor people talk about drama, middle class talk about current events, and wealthy people talk about ideas. And it couldn't be any truer. So getting around people who talk about ideas and where to go and what you want to do, like you have to have an incubator for business, an incubator for where you want to go, an incubator of people that you want to surround yourself with to grow with.
I've got an example of this that I'm just facing like this past weekend, the difference it makes to make friends who are interested in the things you're interested in. Because you have many friends that have all these various differences and interests, and it's beautiful. But having some buddies that are like really into what you're into has its perks. So I have a girlfriend of mine who I met actually through another investor meetup. She and I have been friends for maybe 6 months or so, but we just kind of share ideas and share what we're working on right now. And she sent me a deal that she got really excited about maybe a week or two ago. And this is a $3.5 million deal that is commercial and something that I don't generally look at deals like that. It's something that I was kind of like, yeah, I mean, it looks cool. Like, I don't know. And so she asked me a few more questions. I was like, okay, finally, I'll bite. Like, let's dig in. And so this weekend, I analyzed a $3.5 million deal. And I've never done that before. That was totally new to me. I made a really massive spreadsheet. And I'm like super proud of what it took me and the development I went through this weekend in order to develop a deal and to really analyze how much money you would make on that deal at that price point. And really, it's not that different. It's just more numbers that you have to crunch. But was totally doable. And so I expanded myself, and maybe I'll even go in on that deal. We'll see how that goes. But I just was so excited about the opportunity and the fact that I had a friend that was kind of pushing me and drawing me into something that I wouldn't normally have dug into on my own. So yeah, just who you make friends with and what those relationships are so beautiful because they help you grow and especially achieving your goals, going towards what you're after is such a beautiful thing. So.
Totally.
Like that idea of normalizing bigger thinking.
Yeah.
And it's really the same concepts. It's just maybe adding another zero.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's funny, like just to go back to that idea of like approaching people. Matt said that he like blindly reached out to me one day and we've done a couple deals together, but he was really into short-term rentals and that wasn't even on my radar. And so we had a couple properties at the time that were kind of just trucking along as long-term rentals. And I don't even remember how it came up, but we just started talking about short-term rentals and I was like, well, how do you think these ones are doing? He's like, I don't know. And I said, well, do you want to manage them? And he's like, I guess we can give it a shot. And like,
let's do it.
I mean, like he was, for all intents and purposes, like a total rookie who came in and gave me an idea I never thought of. And we partnered up on a few properties. And now like we do deals, our team does deals with people doing short-term rentals. And that's not anything I would have had the confidence to do before if I hadn't met Matt and knew that he had like all these systems in place and can provide good service to our clients too. And so having this rookie come to me and open my mind, like that changed things for me too. So, I mean, that's just an example of why people shouldn't be afraid to go and approach other people for sure.
You never know where a connection's going to happen. Right. It could be in the hallway at a conference. It could be in the park. You could be out for coffee. You never know when it's going to happen. So you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So you have to take those shots. So next question I want to get, because John, I know you're pressed for time, but what are we all excited about for 2024?
Yeah, I'm excited about Boise REIN 2.0 as we launch into year 2. I don't know what this is, guys, but there's something bigger than me. And I keep saying that. This just has how come about over this last year. And whether I almost feel like it's almost whether I want it to or not, the momentum that's pulling us forward as far as where this is going to go. And we mentioned there's not like a lot of real estate RIAs or association here in the Valley. And I think by the end of this year, I would like to see Boise REIN as the leading place for all Idaho investors to come and grow.
It feels like it already is.
Yeah.
We're getting there.
We are.
We're getting
We
there.
are.
Getting the word out.
Yeah. Do we have any events coming up? Like how often does Boise REIN have events?
Well, we're adding events all the time. We have a connection event on a monthly basis for all of our pro members. We've got a great monthly meeting that Molly runs. And that's an area where people kind of get around the table and break down deals. Yep. And then we have a lot of workshops coming up. Like we've got a multifamily workshop. By the time this podcast airs, this one will be done, but there's more workshops down the road. And so always be checking. Well, first of all, we've got a great membership option that we can find out all about that on boiserein.com. But then there's these events that are available for our members, and they're happening all the time. We even have a monthly lunch where we get together and connect and create those connections. So no one can claim there's not time or space or places to connect.
There's so many different ways to fit in.
With people's schedules.
Yes.
And then, of course, we have all of our events recorded. So we have them in the portal available for resources. Got all kinds of things coming down the pike, Matt.
Yeah, I love it.
I almost called you Matt.
I love it. Some of my personal favorites, though, are the workshops that Boise REIN puts on. I know Max Reich, he did he's an integrator for EOS, the Entrepreneur Operating System. We're having the workshop for multifamily with the Johns.
We were there.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
It was awesome.
It's awesome. So if you want to stop by for a connection event or something interests you, like definitely stop by. These are industry
Well, actually,
leaders
it's not
who help.
stop by though, Matt. It's get on the website and register.
Yes.
Because we
Yes.
are getting to the point where we have very limited space. So
Yes.
we need to make sure that we account for all of our members that want to attend.
Stop by the Facebook, stop by some meetups like Molly's, become a member, then stop by some of the workshops. Because there's just so many things that Boise REIN has to offer. And
Totally.
you can definitely find a home here somewhere.
Well, I'm also excited about this podcast, Matt. This is our 15th episode. And so it's so cool. And so if you're listening to this podcast for the first time and you haven't listened to episodes 1 through 14, we're just getting started, but go back and listen to those. I think you'll find such a variety of investors that are coming on the show, sharing their experience, whether they've done one deal or whether they've done hundreds of deals. And we're excited about some of the guests we have coming up. And it really is just about highlighting that everyone has a story, and it's so beyond just the numbers. It's about creating that long-term wealth and financial freedom for themselves and for their families, and really also making a difference.
Yeah. And what's cool about each episode is all these guests that we have on, they come to all the events. So it's not like you can never meet them. Like, they're going to be there. So listen to their episode, listen to what they're about, and then meet them in person and see what value you can provide, because you never know where that connection is going to happen.
Yeah.
Jonna, thanks for coming on. We're going to continue the show. Jonna's got to run. She's got to provide more value to other people out there in the valley. So
My
thank you for
pleasure.
being here.
Guys, it's great being in business and life with you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Excited for what's to
mutual.
come.
All right, get out of here. This show would not be possible without the support from our local community. Because of you, we're able to share information from leading professionals like never before. That's why our sponsors at Boise Turnkey Investments and Your Stay B&B have teamed up with the Boise REIN Show. Whether you're just starting out or you're a seasoned pro, they help bring you all the insider information to get you started on your journey today. Back to the show. Okay, now that Jonna's gone, we've switched seats. Welcome back. Part 2 of this episode, I guess you could say. But I'm excited to get into more about what you guys are excited about in 2024 and what you're looking forward to see, whether it's business, real estate, community, or just building relationships in general.
Yeah. I mean, I'll jump in. So, I had my own podcast. I was on, I don't know, one of those early episodes. And so I won't bore everybody with too much of my story, but a little bit of background that we created a new 5-year plan a little over a year ago, a year and a half ago almost, and we're on track with that. And so we last year was like the hardest year of those 5 years, and so we kicked butt, and I was super proud of everything we did last year. And this year we have a new goal, which is to buy a business in addition to real estate. And so I'm really excited about that. And we've already talked to several business owners, and nothing's quite worked out yet. We're currently in conversation with another business owner about purchasing a management business. And yeah, I'm really excited about the future of how that's going to support, my real estate sales, about how it's going to support my family as we grow into this next phase of our 5-year goals. I think it'll actually accelerate us so that we might even hit those goals a little early. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Is that possible? And I'm just excited about, what those next things are. And also currently excited about the fact that, maybe $1 million, commercial deals or something that'll be in our future too. Because that, you tend to set your goals based on like what your frame of mind is at the time. Mm-hmm. And I know the last time we had a 5-year goal, 3 years and everything looked so different, but that's okay. And it's a fun thing to be like, wow, maybe we'll do it this other way and we'll still meet our goals and maybe exceed them, but in a new way. And so I'm just excited about what's next and how that's all going to come together. And I'll have to say that Boise REIN is really at the core of what inspires that for me, because it's the relationships I'm making and the connections, I get from this group that keep me pushing forward and coming up with what's next.
One of the things I love about what your story is and what you just said is that you will find that something Dan always tells us, especially at the conference he spoke at, was the best part about real estate is there's so many things you can get involved in with real estate.
So many.
The worst part about real estate is there's so many things that you can do in real estate.
Totally.
And for those listening, like, you never know where your journey is going to lead you. You just got to, like, you set goals. And what those goals did was they built habits for you to get you in the right mindset to move forward. And yes, goals change, but that's because as you're building those habits, you don't rise the level of your habits. You fall to the systems of, you fall to the level of your systems.
Yeah.
And as you're learning and growing and experiencing, like, hey, let's let's buy business. Like,
Yeah.
I think we're ready for this. And I love that. Corby, what about you? 2024?
Well, we have a property management business that my wife runs, and she's done an amazing job of like hiring great people and kind of creating processes like you were talking about. And that business has really started thriving because we have really good people in place. They're super reliable, honest, great people, and the processes are in place. And so we're talking a lot right now about going after some bigger fish and taking on some apartment complexes, and we've kind of dipped our toes a little bit into that. So growing that side of business is pretty interesting to me, and so we're heading down that path. And then beyond that, like honestly, on the real estate transactional side, doing more of what we've been doing, helping more people make their first move. That's my favorite thing. Yeah. Like just getting people to get over that hump and the fear to do that first deal. It's the most rewarding thing. It's funny.
So good.
There's so many people who haven't done a deal yet, and they think that like as real estate agents and investors that like we're working with these multi-billionaires and that's rewarding because it's quick and easy or whatever I think the imagination might be. There's nothing better than helping somebody with their first deal. And so anyway,
especially when they start making money and they're stoked and you're like, yeah, you got this.
So doing more of those deals, honestly, those and growing our property management company, that's what I'm looking forward to.
I love that. In my opinion, 2024, what I'm looking forward to is in the past couple of years, there have been more millionaires made in their 20s than ever before. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of that has to do with social media, has to do with the market, the changing the landscape. People are moving out of the bigger cities, moving into the smaller cities because, you don't have to be, you can be detached now because there's the flow of information is going so fast these days that I just see more growth happening in that space. Mm-hmm. So like connecting with people just like we're connecting now is just gonna, if you can capture some of that, and grow with some other people, so you have, like we were talking about earlier, find people who have some ideas that align with what you have. Yeah. I think there's a huge potential for growth. I don't think there's ever been a moment in history where it's been any cheaper to start your own business. You can afford to make some mistakes. Right. And I'm looking forward to seeing some people out there, maybe some listeners here in the community or something, starting their own path. Yeah. This is the time to do it.
Yep.
Totally.
Yep.
Okay. So you were just talking about bringing new investors on and what that looks like, buying new houses. Both of you here are sitting here as realtors and have a lot of experience working this. Can you guys kind of go through the process, what it's like to bring somebody who may be a traditional residential buyer and what that looks like to bring them on and coach them up as a new investor?
Yeah. Honestly, my team, we almost exclusively work with people who are interested in investing anyway. So I don't do a whole lot of that, but I do get people who reach out that say like, well, we need to buy our own personal house and then we'll talk to you about investing later. Mm-hmm. And I love to sit down with them and take a look at their goals and their income and the home that they have now and like strategize. And more often than not, people, once you start breaking things down, they realize that they have resources and opportunities right in front of them that they didn't know. And they have things that they can leverage that will totally change their situation and put them on that course much faster. And like seeing those gears start to turn and that light bulb will go off. I've found for me at least that 9 times out of 10, if somebody comes to me and they say, I'm going to invest later, but like we just need help with this personal thing right now, that they end up.
You're like, hold on, let's just look at this together.
Right. They end up getting everything that they wanted for less than they thought that they could, or it'll be putting money in their pockets. And it's really fun and rewarding to see that. So doing more than just like being a real estate agent, but like sitting down and kind of becoming like
a financial advisor almost.
Yeah, like a real estate investment coach or something like that. And I forget about the transactional part of things because that will come.
Because it inspires us.
Yes,
because
absolutely.
that's our jam.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, it kind of boggles my mind a little bit that people want to work with agents who are not interested in investing. So I'm like, but you're missing out on all the inspiration. We're gonna get you excited. I totally echo everything you just said. My favorite is when somebody comes to me actually and says they want to buy a primary, but they also want to invest. Yep. And that's kind of like a next thought. And I'm like, well, have you thought about house hacking? Like, let's just kind of explore that. Because, also everybody thinks that house hacking is this like, I got to buy a duplex and I got to live in one side and I got neighbors on the other side of the wall. And I'm like, well, it could be that. Mm-hmm. Or you could buy that really cool house over there that has a pool in the backyard and a detached garage, and you're going to convert the detached garage, which now doesn't share any walls, and that's going to be your Airbnb. You can also put that pool on Swimply, and now you're going to be making bank on your backyard. Like, there's other ways to house hack.
Yep.
You can buy multi-million-dollar properties, and you can have horse boarding on the property, and you can house hack that way. There's so many ways to invest and buy primary residences, and I get super inspired by that and fired up about it. And I just think you got to spend time talking about it and build relationships if you're going to do that, you know?
So many people hear house hacking in there, and they've got 2 kids, and
But
they're
I can't do
married,
that.
and they're like, we can't have roommates.
Yeah.
But there's a billion ways to house hack. All that means is that you're finding a way to create income from your property. That's it.
And supplement your mortgage payment.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah. And there's a million ways to do that.
Totally. We were doing that. I mean, that's what we were doing before I even knew what Bigger Pockets was, and I never even had heard the concept of house hacking, but we had bought, 12 acres with a second unit on it, and that's how we afforded a big, beautiful, acreage property. And I just was like, oh, but I just was doing the numbers, and that would make me be able to afford that mortgage.
Yep.
And I love that it's coined now. Yeah.
You guys have clearly had experience with this and have gone through quite a few people and helped a lot of people out. What I love about what you both share in common is that for people who are just starting out and don't know where to turn to, finding a realtor like yourselves who have a lot of knowledge in the industry on how to help them get started is, in my opinion, one of the best places to get started.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I got my start.
Yeah.
I messaged you at 10 o'clock at night on
we
a
did that for
Friday,
you.
and you're like, yeah, come to my office. We'll meet. We'll talk, because I didn't know anything about anything. Like, I had an idea, like I read books, like I listened to podcasts, but like I've never actually physically done anything. So just coming in and speaking to somebody like you guys to help get me pointed in the right directions, because you're going to know how to house hack. You're going to know the lenders. You're going to know the contractors. You're going to know how to get a deal done. You're going to know what houses to look at. Like, this is a perfect way to get started. And on top of that, you're holding them accountable. You're somebody to talk to, somebody to advise on. So great place to get started. Cool.
Yeah.
I love that you guys do that.
Yeah.
Okay, so another question. What do you guys find is the biggest challenge in our current market?
Interest rates. I mean, to state the obvious, interest rates are definitely challenging. I mean, for the same property we could buy, 2.5 years ago, the mortgage is now so almost double, and so to be able to get cash flow out of a property now, which I think in some ways has been great. I'm sure you feel that too. It's like, okay, well, you got to be scrappy, and we know how to be scrappy.
Sure.
And I think Boise REIN's really helpful in that we're all sitting around being like, okay, how can we make this work? I mean, I really loved Rich Jarvis at one of our recent meetups. He was talking about how he's making, these big development deals that he's working on, how he's making them pencil now because it's so much more challenging, and how he got creative. And he shared some really great, you guys join Boise REIN, go get on the portal and watch that episode because he's awesome. It was a connection event. And
And Rich, if you're listening, we want to have you on the show sometime.
Yes,
So
we
I think
love
that would
to
be
have
amazing.
Rich. Yeah. Super smart guy, but just sharing ideas, like bouncing back and forth about how to get scrappy, like renting out your pool in your backyard, or selling off a portion of the land that you're developing to like get the cash flow in order to do the rest of the project. There's so many different strategies that we're now coming up with that are just we're being forced to innovate.
Yep.
And that's pretty cool, because just because it's harder and interest rates suck doesn't mean you can't do deals. It just means you have to get more creative, and we're doing it.
Well, and that makes house hacking even more attractive, right?
Oh, yes.
Because when you're house hacking, you can put less down. You get a lower interest rate. That loan can stay on there as long as you want it to be on there. So that's another reason, like house hacking. If you haven't done your first deal, it's the way to go.
Yes.
I'm going to avoid your question.
Okay.
You and I have talked about this a lot, but like I'm a big believer that like there's always going to be a reason to not do a deal, right? And I'm not saying you should do any deal, but there's always a couple years ago when interest rates were 2.5%.
Oh yeah. Why didn't we buy everything?
Well, money was so affordable that everybody did want to buy everything. And I know that you guys know really well that like basically every property was multiple offers going for way over asking price. And so at that time, everybody was saying, I don't want to get a bidding war. I don't want to overpay, all those sorts of things. And so that was a good reason to say like, I'm going to wait.
Such a missed opportunity though.
And right. But I mean that people were scared then. And then all of a sudden interest rates shot up. And now people, like that's the reason to wait. There's always going to be a reason to wait. And there's never going to be the perfect deal. It's far more important that you take reasonable action and that you have somebody in your circle that can kind of help guide you and mitigate risk through understanding and experience. And so there's always challenges. And I mean, I agree with Molly. I mean, the biggest challenge right now is the cost of money, but that shouldn't stop you. I mean, it shouldn't stop you. It shouldn't be a reason to like kick back and say like, I'm going to wait for this, because once interest rates come back down, there's going to be a different challenge that will be a reason to sit on the sidelines.
A calm sea never made experienced sailors.
Yeah.
There you go.
Amen.
And just to piggyback onto your comment about you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take, like the sports analogy that I always say is that like I talk to a lot of newer investors who they're always waiting for like either somebody to hand them this perfect opportunity or interest rates to come down or the bidding wars to stop or whatever. And I always just say like, you can't control any of those things. The only thing you can control is whether or not you act, and you can't win a game you're not playing. Yeah. If you're not playing the game, if you're not on the field, you don't get a trophy.
Yep.
It's about the experience. It's about learning.
Yep.
It's not about the deal. There's no such thing as a perfect deal. I don't care how good the deal is. The deal could be fantastic. It could be crap.
Yep.
There's no such thing as a perfect deal. The best part about any deal is the experience and the knowledge that you learn making it.
Totally.
And you have to make it. You have to take action.
Yep.
And buy good deals too, but you know.
Well, yeah, for sure.
But you learn what those
the
good
mindset
deals
is
look
important.
like.
Yeah.
You know, maybe your first deal, you only make $20 a month, you know?
Yeah.
But then as you start to grow and experience more, you realize, hey, I'm actually making principal down. Okay, so I am doing something right. Oh, I have to depreciate my property every year. Okay, so I'm learning this. You know, you go slow. You go slowly at first, but then you get your second, third, fifth, 10th deal, and you compound the lessons you've learned from your first one.
Yeah. So true.
Well, it's not just that, but once you dip your toes in and start doing deals, you're going to start meeting other people who are doing deals. Yep. And then opportunities present themselves through networking and meeting people that you never would have had access before.
For sure. That definitely happens.
Yep.
For sure.
Okay. Big question. What are your predictions for the years to come in real estate? 5, 10 years down the road, if you want to just talk about Boise or anything in general. What predictions do you guys have? I'm going to bring out your magic ball right now. Give it a rub.
Yeah.
Tell me what you think.
I guess I'll start on that one.
Please do.
I think we live in a time that is unlike any other time. I just really believe that our political climate, our technology alone, like the shifts that are occurring right now, we live in unprecedented times. And so the past being a predictor of the future, I know a lot of investors talk about that. We talk about the cycles of real estate. And I'm not saying that those don't exist still, but I definitely think we need to all be open-minded that it's not going to look quite like it's looked in the past. That's my personal opinion on it. I think there's just too many things that are different today than they've been in the past. And maybe that's short-sighted. Maybe everybody's got something different every 10, 15 years. But I do personally feel like our market is, to some degree, currently our government impacts our interest rates in a big way.
And regulation.
It's just things are a little more regulated and hands-on. And so I don't think we're going to see the same swings that we've seen. And I don't know, maybe in a few years I'll be totally wrong. But that's my personal feeling. I think we're going to have shifts. I don't think we're going to see like giant '08 crashes. I don't think we're going to see a Great Depression. I just don't personally believe that that's in the future for us. And even if we do see some pretty big sinks, the way I look at it is I own a hard asset and those things will continue to be demanded of. Whereas, technology and things that can be shifted and changed at a rapid rate, to me are not as safe of an investment. And so I like continuing to buy things that are going to continue to be demanded of. There's only so much land. There's only so much property in the world. And I like that I own a little piece of that.
Yeah.
The best time to buy a tree was 10 years ago, but the next best time is today.
Yeah. I'm just going to keep going with that.
Yep.
Well, one of the reasons I love real estate is like 10 years from now, an iPhone might be obsolete, right? There could be some other gadget.
Totally.
That
implanted in our eyeball or something.
Maybe.
I don't know.
I'll be first in line. But it's never going to be like uncool to live in a house, right?
Yeah.
Everyone needs a place to live.
There's that always going to be demand. I mean, styles change and locations change that are attractive, but there's always a demand for housing, always. Yeah. My prediction, and I think a lot of people locally probably know it. I'm just going to talk about our market because I don't want to pretend to be an expert on anything else. But for those, Boise's grown exponentially, right? I mean, Molly moved here a couple years ago
Yep,
for a very specific
I'm part
reason,
of that.
right? And a lot of locals, I think, that have grown up here, that have lived here a whole time, I don't think that they know how unique of a place this is here.
So true.
That Boise is, and this
Special.
valley, it's clean, it's safe. Regardless of how you feel about the political environment, like the state and a lot of local governments want you to be able to do whatever you want with your resources and your home and your land. And
It's a culture.
Yeah, it's a culture. And people here are friendly.
Yeah, they like care about you and
Yep.
they look out for you, and yeah, it's special.
I think because of those things, this market is going to keep growing. I don't think property values are going to be coming down. I mean, it's when interest rates shot up a couple years ago to 8.5% for owner-occupy loans, everybody was predicting that property values here were, like, over the course of the year, were going to be cut in half, right? Didn't happen. And interest rates are starting coming back down here. And Molly can corroborate this, I'm sure. Like right now, our market
It's
is
nuts.
It's multiple offers.
Hopping.
Things are going over asking in the matter of hours.
And things are going pending in less than 24 hours. It's nutty.
So the reason I'm saying all this is not to scare anybody away. I'm just saying that, like, if you want to invest, I don't think that sitting around and waiting for something outside of your control is worth it. I think our market's going to continue to be strong. I think values are going to continue to grow, not like COVID 30%
Sure.
year over year.
I mean, that was fun for a minute.
For a minute. I just think values here are going to continue to improve at reasonable rates over time. We don't have any control over where interest rates are going to go, so that just kind of is what it is. But I think that the Boise market, for the foreseeable future, there's going to be a housing shortage. Our vacancy rate here is 2% right now. It's sub 2% for long-term rentals. Yeah. I think it goes without saying that there's a shortage in housing because things are going so fast. There's more people that want to buy houses than sell them.
Yeah. Well,
So-
builders got a little nervous with the hike in interest rates, so they've shifted a little bit and stopped building quite as aggressively as they did a couple years ago. And so, yeah, our inventory just continues to stay
Low. Yeah.
low. Yeah.
So anyway, the foreseeable future, I just think that our market is going to be really strong, and I'm putting my
money where your mouth is.
my money where my mouth is.
Same here.
I'm out doing deals too.
Yeah.
So
Same.
yeah.
There are a lot of levers in the economy that, when pulled, will change things that we can't predict. It's like the three-body problem. Like, you can't predict where the market's going in the future. Like, it's just impossible. You can have a solid plan, and everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. But
Learn to pivot.
with the crazy inflation we've saw, with the government injecting a bunch of money over COVID,
Yeah.
trying to control that with interest rates, thinking the market's going to crash. Not going to crash because the money's here to stay. Inflation already happened. We can't do anything about it. These are the new normal prices. I think we can find that in your story, the thought that people are moving into more rural cities that have better regulation. Like, let's look at the tax code, for example. The tax code was written to incentivize the economy to grow. You know, people who build roads are incentivized to build roads, to save on their taxes so that the economy can grow. Same with real estate. We're incentivized to do these things. And when this information era that we're living in, information moving so fast, people are moving out of the bigger cities into more rural areas like this. And I know you talked about Boise specifically, which I agree with you. I would just also like to add that there are other cities out there like that people are migrating to, and I think that we'll see those happen more in the future as our economy shifts, and we don't know where we're going to go.
Yeah.
So look out for that.
That's definitely pretty consistent consensus.
Yeah.
I just don't see any big crashes coming. Sorry.
Yeah. And hey, I love Boise too, and I'm excited to see what it's going to look like in 10 years.
Yeah.
Well, and not to go down a rabbit hole, but like I know there's some newer investors out there that are crossing their fingers hoping for a crash.
I know.
I went through that 15 years ago, and I didn't know the repercussions of it at the time. But what happens is banks stop loaning money.
Right.
So
Good
even
luck
if
getting the loan on that
even if real
investment.
estate values are cut in half, if you don't have a pile of cash sitting around, then you'll be watching everybody else that does anyhow. So a crash is not necessarily a good thing for investors, even if you're trying to get into the market. The money gets so tight that it's impossible to get your hands on anyway.
Yep. Could not agree more. The reality is that, making moves is always going to be better than not making moves.
Yep.
And buy smart, do your, run your numbers, know what you're getting into, and have a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C. That's the way we run our deals and make sure that we feel like we're comfortable no matter what's going to go on, and we feel pretty confident. I also will say that the more deals you do, the confidence grows because you're like, I've seen how this can go. I can see when things kind of get rough. Like I can see the fluctuations, and so there's a confidence gained in just doing it.
Sure. I don't know if you've done 5 or 6 deals that have done pretty well, then that one that maybe you stretch a little bit on, it's not going to kill you, even if you lose.
Right.
So,
but you got to start doing it in order to get
Start
to that
doing
level.
it. Plant those trees. Get after it.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Jonna Weber, the founder of the Boise Real Estate Investor Network. Thanks for being a listener of our Boise REIN show, where our incredible pro members share their personal stories and areas of expertise with our listeners. If you're enjoying our show, you are going to love our Boise REIN community. Our mission is to inspire, connect, and equip you to create wealth and freedom for yourself and your family. We invite you to join us as a member at Boise REIN today at boiserein.com.
I appreciate you guys coming on today. It's been awesome just having a conversation. But I do want to end it like we always do, and I want to ask each of you, what's one piece of advice you could give our listeners today that will get them closer to their goals tomorrow?
Oh boy, I should have been better prepared for that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I've kind of already been saying it today, but it's something that I definitely say a lot to newbie investors. But I think, especially after my recent experience I just shared about from this past week and running that larger deal, do deals, like run deals, just practice it every single day. That muscle memory is so valuable that, if I can inspire anybody to do anything, practice running deals, big, small, doesn't matter, every single day. And that muscle memory, it almost is natural for me now that like I see a house that I'm curious about and I'm like, I wonder how much that one would make. I just start kind of quickly running numbers in my head anywhere I travel to. And I just can't say enough how important that muscle memory is to become a successful real estate investor.
Cool. Yeah. I would say if you're looking to dip your toes in, I would go onto the Boise REIN Facebook page and find somebody who you think is doing cool stuff that maybe is a little bit intimidating, and send them a DM and offer to buy them a cup of coffee.
Yeah, that's good advice.
That's a very simple thing you can do, and I guarantee in this community you'll get a response, and you'll be sitting down with somebody and you'll be helping each other.
Very frictionless action to take. I love it.
And I would think I speak for both Corby and I, but we sit down with people like that every week, right?
Oh, yeah.
Every week. It does not mean that we're going to sell a house to them. It's just we're totally open to doing that. And please reach out to us, but definitely reach out to anybody in the Boise REIN community because we all want to do that for each other.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I know I don't normally give my advice on these two, but since it's a community thing today, I'll give mine.
Do it.
I've got quite a few, but for today, I will talk about analysis paralysis. So if you're somebody out there who can't figure out how to get started, here's my advice. Commit to something. It's okay if it's wrong. It's never the right thing, just like there's never a perfect deal. Just commit. Commit to it. And then once you've committed, take consistent action on it. Be committed to the process. It doesn't matter if it's the wrong process. You're learning. That's the whole point. And it's not that 1 + 1 = 2, because once you learn a new skill and another skill on top of that and another skill on top of that, 3 + 3 doesn't = 3, 10. 3 + 3 doesn't = 6. 3 + 3 = 10. Because you're going to compound your skills and you're going to grow with others, just like what we talked about here today. That is going to elevate you to a level that you don't even know is possible. So
I love it.
Yep, good
I
stuff.
love it.
So great.
Well, thanks again, guys, for coming on.
Yeah.
It was awesome having you guys.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, listeners. Hey, if you have a question about, the things we talked about today, feel free to leave a comment below. If you liked what we talked about, please hit a like. And if you want to see more, think about subscribing. We'd love to have you guys, and I'd love to see you guys at some of our events. I know they certainly would.
Absolutely.
And we'll see you guys next time.
All right.